Hey everybody, it's Paul with the Graphic Multiverse, your host. I'm with Angela.
Hi.
And
You got this?
I don't know. I don't know if I do. I'm just so excited for today's episode. I can't think or talk straight. But we got Angela, we got Juan.
What's up?
And we got Rob.
Hello there.
And it's gonna be a soup dupe episode. What? What's wrong with soup dupe?
Soup dupe.
Soup dupe. Soup duping it up.
That sounds like a comic from like the 80s.
It's it's
like a newspaper cartoon.
It just sounded like you were like taking a weird step into like scat. Like oh
my god, can you imagine? That would be so offensive.
My 16-year-old goddaughter can do about a minute of the Scatman song.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, it's a Scatman song.
Well, it is,
I think
she's like,
let's be real. We're all millennials. We can do the whole song by heart.
That's true. We can.
We just don't admit it.
I could mumble my way through it. I'm sure I would incorrectly make the sounds, but I am very familiar with the Scatman song. I've been to Newgrounds 20 years ago. I've seen many a Flash animation.
God.
R.I.P. Flash animation.
I know.
Yeah. Remember Flash? Remember what was it? What was it? One website like Underground?
Newgrounds.
Or Newgrounds?
Newgrounds. Yeah. Oh, Newgrounds.
Those were. I remember thinking those were so cool, and I wanted to make my own cartoon, but I just did not have the patience. This was like, I don't know, 1999, 2000.
Yeah. You know who did have the patience? Ian. I'm sure he has some floating around there because he did all that. He still does all that.
That's really cool. Ian, he'd be great to have on the show sometime.
I'll let him know.
Ian?
I'll let him know. He'll pop
let your listeners know.
Okay, so all right, so let's go into our time machine.
I guess, yeah. So it's fitting. We're going to talk about Loki, so
time machine. It's a circle, and so I met Juan, and it's safe to say that Juan is my oldest friend. Fair. I met Juan when I didn't have friends, and it was we met at the Institute of Contemporary Art, and there was it was like a film program.
Yeah,
it was like an after school thing. I think Juan was one of the OG members. I came in on the second part of it.
You did, but it was for high schoolers, right? It was for high schoolers to get them into film. Yeah, and when you came in, it was the exception. It was like everybody made a lot of noise because here comes Paul, and we're all 15, 16. Here comes Paul, and Paul's like just barely 13. And we were like, why'd they let this kid in? Like, he can barely get into some of these movies. And then it was like, no, look at his reel. He's done these movies. And me and my buddy Ian, my best friend, who was also there from the beginning, we were both like, wow, this Paul kid has some skill. Like, And then Paul would talk, but he was so nervous to talk around people that his voice would crack like every third word.
And stutter. You got to remember, I had a stutter too.
You did, but it was the voice cracking. Because the stutter, it was like, it was interpreted like you were just really excited to say whatever you were going to say. So it didn't really come off
because people
like
wanted to talk to me. That hadn't happened before.
But it was yeah. So how could you not be this kid's friend? It's how it happened. Like it was just always going to be that was the case, So, and then of course, we get to talking, and he likes comics and superheroes. And
I remember the moment that I got your attention because I was talking to somebody. Because I was writing a script, and it was like I had a villain in mind who was Zaz was the inspiration, and I couldn't say that dude's name. I'm like, I don't know. I can't remember what I was trying to say. And it was like, Zaz. It was like I was up in one of the theater seats and you were on the stage. It's Zaz. Like that was and that was what got the conversation going about comic books.
That's awesome.
Like best friends ever since.
Yeah. That's hilarious. Yeah, Zaz. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah, but and then
adorable.
yeah, and then I went on to star in Juan's movie, Perceptions of Reality.
Have these movies?
I don't know.
You made a movie
I have
15 called
VHS.
Perceptions of Reality. That is amazing.
It turned into Degeneration.
Oh, that's right.
That was the
Degeneration.
Name. So the original script was Perceptions of Reality, but then it changed to Degeneration.
Oh my god!
That sounds like you went from like a '90s indie movie to like a '90s wannabe Matrix movie.
Well, it was. Before the Matrix too.
It was.
We did these, yeah.
It's like you watch like some Richard Linklater movies, and you're like, "Oh, let's make this," and then all of a sudden you saw like
it was cool though.
I
remember reading it and thinking like, "Oh my god!" It's like this is what it feels like to have my mind blown in person, to be reading it in front of the dude who wrote it. Oh my god.
Yeah, I don't know.
Although it's more like
I still have it on VHS. I got it. I'm pretty sure somewhere.
Yeah, it was. It was.
So bad.
Yeah,
you need to digitize it. You can mail it across the country. I have a VCR behind me that I was digitizing VHS with this year.
I haven't seen it.
I will pay for shipping. I need this to happen.
I remember.
I will look for it.
Yeah, but that was a really important time in my life when I got to know Juan and Ian, because not only were you guys my first friends, but you were and this is more to say about the community that I grew up in, because I grew up around a bunch of white Irish people.
So to specify for everybody that doesn't know, so I'm 5'11" Puerto Rican dude, okay, that grew up in basically the ghettos of Boston and New York. Ian, my best friend that I've had since around the same time I met Paul in high school, is a 6'1" skinny black dude who grew up in between like the nice part of the South End and the ghetto part of Mass Ave. He was on the nice side of Mass Ave.
Wow.
Versus the ghetto side of Mass Ave.
I lived right there too, so I know exactly what you're talking about.
So his mom has, she owned a brownstone there, like that's where him and his sister grew up. Like so Ian is like very much an animation type dude. Like that's his thing. My thing was more like, superheroes and comics and all of that. So us two then becoming friends with this 13-year-old white kid from Southie is pretty funny, pretty awesome, So
yeah, I mean, we were a collection, but it was great. Yeah. I looked forward to it every week. Like it was like Monday and Tuesday, and it was like fuck the weekends, man. I want it to be Monday. Yeah. I had such a good time. I remember too, we were filming at Ian's, and I remember I was drawing something, and Juan was like, "Oh, that's pretty good. Ian, you gotta see this." Like, "Oh man, Paul, Ian's gonna burn you," and I'm like, "Why would you do that? Why would you burn me? Like why?" Like I'm legit thinking like with a match or something.
He's gonna light a match. I'm like, "No, dude, it's slang, bro. He's just gonna like."
I was like, "Dude, no. I will burn it if I cannot be burned."
Oh man, that was the other thing. We would use slang around Paul, and Paul would take it literally. Like, "No, bro, no, no one's gonna roast anything. We're talking about like we're just gonna make fun of you a little bit. Yeah. That's all. We're just gonna poke fun. That's all." It was the older brothers that I always wanted.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Stop and so that we're gonna turn on the stove and then put your hand on it. It's nothing that extreme.
It was great. It was like, guys, I made friends and they're not white.
Hearing stories like this just really makes me realize like how we never could have come in contact like as children, because I would have bullied you relentlessly. Because I would have been Helga Pataki. I was Helga Pataki. Let me be straight. Unibrow and everything.
I say that with Diana all the time. Like I'm like, in high school, you would have not talked to me at all. Like it just wouldn't have happened.
I would have mercilessly.
Yeah, that's a tricky one.
Bullied you.
Yeah.
Because I was in love with you.
Mm.
I just know.
You still bully me.
I do. But I'm a little more tactful about it.
But now it's like legal.
You laugh.
You guys are married.
Yeah.
So.
And I do, and I laugh about it.
You laugh about it.
Out
so
of fear.
It's not the same.
Paul is both Arnold and the weird breathing kid at the same time.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and it's just so funny because I don't want to leave Rob out. I remember, and then going on to Suffolk to study, film and video production. We met in a film class, and like my earliest memory of Rob was Paul Schrader's lecture, where I had to be in the hospital that day. And I was pumped full of drugs, and my buddy William had to be like my chaperone because the hospital couldn't let me leave without a guardian. And my parents, as wonderful as they are, couldn't be there to pick me up. So I was like wandering the streets of Boston with Will, high as a kite. And and I think Rob and I we were like sitting pretty close to each other. Like at that,
I remember you came in with a shit ton of snacks.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I remember being like, I don't know. When I pictured not to like dig up bad memories, but I just picture like Ezra Miller's Flash. Like I think that's what I was like. Shh, sorry, shh, and I'm just like, and be like,
not being stealthy at all.
Yeah, so we gotta be quiet. Noise, we gotta be super
clipping everybody's chairs.
Yeah,
going
like
down
super
to the front
quiet
row of
and like
the auditorium.
Yeah, like shh. Hey, I brought some snacks. Who wants some? Yeah, but then I remember this Suffolk had the studio that nobody was using, surprisingly, or not a lot of people. And I was like, I think I want to do a show about comic books. And everyone's like, you got to talk to Rob. And and here we are.
There it is.
The rest, as they say, is history.
Now we get to talk about comics on this pod.
Yeah, it's all good. This is a really nice little start of the episode. Yeah. This is what I like when you stay in touch over the years, because I know people always say like, oh, it's hard to stay in touch with people, you grow apart, and I'm like, I don't think that's the case. Rob's, I think, been trying to get away from us, which I don't blame him.
Good luck.
But
says the person who moved thousands of miles away.
Yeah,
there you go.
But I did it for a good reason.
Yeah, Colorado's cool.
Yeah, it's cool. But it was funny. I remember talking to my mom. She's like, isn't it great that you and Juan stay in touch? I was like, no, it's not actually. I can't. I changed my number and somehow he finds me. Like right. I don't know what to say to that. Isn't it nice? Like, you're like, no, Mom, he's terrible.
Well, it's been a minute. We've been friends for decades. Can literally say that.
Yeah. I remember writing a paper on Captain America and I interviewed Juan about it. Listen.
I can give you a lot of stuff about Captain
I was America, so close to just giving you a wedgie right now.
Today I've been brought in to talk about this Kang stuff.
I am so excited. And that was what I wanted to, my way of circling back to the main topic was that Juan was like my mentor or my dealer getting me into comics. Yep. And so he was the guy I always went to. And last week we were all talking about how Loki was going to end and how all the reasons why it wouldn't be Kang, who was the man behind the curtain. And lo and behold, the man behind the curtain, he who remains, is Kang, or like a version of Kang. I am so excited to dive in because I started reading the Avengers from the beginning. Like issue 1 was at 1962. Thereabouts. So. They're a little rough, but I appreciate what they were doing. But
a lot of high concept stuff.
It is.
The high concept stuff still works, and that's why that's why that stuff is timeless. Captain America being thawed out of ice and put on the team, and like, no, sorry, dude, you've missed out on decades while you've been frozen. Like the execution, not always great, but you didn't get really good writers. I mean, I don't think comics as a medium got better until the 80s. And I can write dissertations about why I think that's the case. There's a lot of interesting stuff prior to that. Yeah. But a lot of people really kind of took a different approach to writing in the 80s. And some of that Avengers stuff, Under Siege in particular, just fantastic stuff.
Yeah. But when I got to Kang, I felt like that was a confusing issue. And I was actually reading Avengers I did this thing where I was reading Avengers, Fantastic Four, and Spider-Man. Like, because there's some
crossovers,
tie-in, you know, and like Fantastic Four going back in time, and when he's Rama Tut in Egypt, and yeah. So I have, even reading it, being like, this is making my fucking head hurt about this, who Kang is, and that's where I want to start. So who is he?
Kang.
He's a blue face dude. He's a blue meanie.
Well, that's a armor. That's a, you know, like a face mask. Like Tony Stark's mask goes up and then it's his face underneath. So Kang is a human scientist from the 31st century who, I mean, the show Loki pretty much gave a good rundown. He Who Remains broke down who Kang is for the masses. You know, he discovers a multiverse, and his other selves discover this multiverse, and then they all team up to try to further, I guess, the other one's goals.
Yeah.
And this goes on until, you know, does anybody here watch Rick and Morty?
I do.
Yes.
The Council of Ricks is basically a Council of Kangs. The way that is all structured all comes from the Council of Kangs.
That's cool.
Right. And more recently, even that, the Rick and Morty stuff also references the Council of Reed Richards that came across a couple of years ago. So it's the same type of concept. So
there's a lot of Rick and Morty writers working on Marvel television shows right now too.
Yeah, is this some of the Loki writers?
Yeah, there's a lot of overlap. You can tell Kevin Feige likes comedy, sitcom, and cartoon writers.
That's awesome.
That's Ant-Man Wasp 3. One of the writers is from Rick and Morty as well. So yeah,
that's cool.
Like it's very fun to kind of think about where it can all go. So yeah, he's a time traveler. I mean, he comes from that century into the past and into other timelines to conquer them because he thinks it's fun. Or one version of him, and that is the version that we're going to see, Kang the Conqueror. That's the one that likes going back and just having different things that he can talk shit about. Like, I conquered these people, I conquered this civilization, this group, etc. In particular, he's important because Kang himself, that variant, along that Kang's timeline, there's other versions of himself. And that's where you get Rama Tut, a younger version of Kang that traveled into the past, got bored, and decided to rule over Egypt. Then you got Nathan Richards, a younger version of Kang that travels back in time and decides to not grow up to be an evil Kang, and he becomes Iron Lad, one of the founders of the Young Avengers.
Right.
Then you have Immortus, my favorite version of Kang, because he's the old grumpy SOB who's at the end of the timeline and, has done a whole bunch of things in his life. And he is the version that Kang will eventually become.
Yeah.
And that's what I was mentioning earlier to Rob. That's what Avengers Forever is about. It's basically Kang saying, there's no way I'm going to turn into you in the future. And the two of them basically go to war with each other across the timeline. So I
need to reread Avengers Forever.
It's very good. It's a masterpiece.
I think what threw me off, like I said, when I was kind of going through reading the beginning, was Fantastic Four Annual 1. It's like Stan Lee, Jack Kirby, Chick Stone, where Dr. Doom meets Rama Tut while Rama Tut was on the way to become Kang the Conqueror. And it's a whopping 3 pages of exposition, because it's almost like, so is he related to Doom? Like, they kind of tease like a familial relation that I don't think so
he's not related to Doom. He's a descendant of Reed Richards. That's what makes me excited about his casting, because then, real talk, it opens up the casting for Mr. Fantastic. A couple months ago I mentioned Chidi from The Good Place being a good choice for Reed Richards. And if that's the case, then that makes 100% sense, because Kang is an eventual descendant of Mr. Fantastic. That's another part of the reason why he's such a genius in the 31st century. Like, he's not just some smart dude from the future. He's the smart dude from the future, who, instead of being like Tony Stark and trying to do good, just goes, I'm bored with what's now. Let me go back and get mine wherever I can. And then that's what he does. So Kang has always been, it got cemented with Avengers Forever, but even then, he's had appearances here and there. I mean, he has technology. He has stuff that, Thor said in the first Thor movie that magic is indistinguishable from science. At a certain point, science becomes magic.
Right.
And that's why Kang is kind of like, this dude's impossible. He's like a human dude, but he has stuff that's way more advanced than anything we've seen. Mm. So force fields, illusion casting, duplication, teleportation, energy blast. He can conjure weapons out of thin air. Like, to us, it looks like it's magic, but to him, he has all
like an iPhone
technology at his disposal. So yeah, he's awesome. He's going to be a great villain for the next
and after watching Jonathan Majors basically monologue for an hour and be completely into it, I was like, hell yeah. So I don't think I've actually seen Jonathan Majors in anything.
So I'm in Lovecraft Country.
I haven't watched Lovecraft Country yet.
He was in The Five Bloods. That was good.
I haven't watched enough contemporary things for adults in the past since my son was born.
I
get you.
Yeah.
But holy shit, is that a charismatic man?
Mm-hmm.
And I loved the like manic portrayal of him, or like this version of him, and how he was just like so both like confident but over it, but like exhausted. Yeah, he really sold like being done with it. And then like when that threshold is crossed and all of a sudden he's like, oh shit, this is all new, and just like the way he played everything was so good. And I'm just like, all right, I'm down to watch this guy in 12 more Marvel things.
Yeah. So you mentioned that threshold thing, and I just came across this like an hour before we started this. So the threshold getting crossed in the episode is at 27 minutes and 30 seconds. And at 27 minutes and 30 seconds of WandaVision, Wanda in the finale, at that moment that Kang is saying, we've crossed the threshold, and then it cuts out and you see the timeline starting to branch and splinter. At that moment in WandaVision, Wanda becomes the Scarlet Witch and fucks up Agatha and basically wins.
No, okay. That's amazing.
That's
incredible.
That's amazing.
And I believe that they would have planned it that way.
Well, the original schedule release, this show would have been before WandaVision.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. COVID messed up the.
That's amazing.
That's pretty incredible. Because right when they cross that threshold and all the multiverses start springing up, that's when she becomes the Scarlet Witch. And that also puts into perspective why she could potentially hear her non-existent kids at the end of the show.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Because now there's a multiverse at that moment in time in the show. Yeah.
We need a Spider-Man trailer. It's coming out in December. I want a trailer.
It'll happen soon.
Shang-Chi's what, September?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There has to be one by that at the latest.
Yeah, but also at the same time, it's like I know that like that's a movie that they really don't have to promote very little because we're all going to go see it, especially if it's true that we got Toby and Andrew.
Mm-hmm.
If I want them to keep that a secret till the bitter end, if it's true, because I want to go in hoping but not knowing.
Yeah,
fair. Yeah. Same.
Well, because either way, I don't. If they're not in it, I'm sure I'll still love the movie.
Oh yeah.
So whatever. But if I go see it and it was true all along, I'm down.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think for me, it would just be great because I feel like it would kind of give us a chance to kind of fix where those franchises failed. You know,
it seems like this phase or like the last two phases of Marvel have been like, all right, what did people not like? Thor: The Dark World. Let's make that seem like it was better than it was. And it's like, and Black Widow, they're like, what did people not like? This character's lack of anything in all the other movies. Let's fix that.
Right.
Well, you know what Marvel's really good at too is making movies that people didn't like kind of super important. Like when you realize how important Dark World is to like Endgame.
Yeah,
and
or Age of Ultron.
Yeah, I was gonna say Age of Ultron.
Yeah, Age of Ultron. That's a lot of people didn't like that movie, but I mean it's set up so much.
That's a movie that got better after the fact for me. Like I
for a lot
moved it
of
up in my
people,
after
Oh yeah, definitely.
Because we've talked, Ange and I have talked about that.
Absolutely.
Where wasn't too crazy about it the first time around, and then with each viewing, I like it more. I think it's, and honestly, I think those are the best movies. It's the movies that get better than the ones that were like, remember when this came out and we all thought it was good, and it's kind of
right.
So
yeah. I mean, the other day, Diana asked me flat out. She was like, name a trilogy where each movie was better than the previous one, aside from Back to the Future. And I was like, Captain America has one. And she was like, oh, fair. And I was like, you can make the argument for Thor too. And you can definitely, I mean, there's maybe Iron Man. I don't know. I like Iron Man 2 way more than people did though. So
I loved Iron Man 3. People hated it.
I love Iron Man 3 too.
Iron Man 3 is good.
But for me, for my Iron Man rating, I would go like 1-3-2 probably. And for Captain America, I would go my personal opinion, I would go 2-1-3. But I love every Captain America movie. Like those are like all in my top. It's hard for me to pick. I just And then
I mean Winter Soldier. I mean, that's like that's the MCU's Dark Knight.
Yeah, I would say Winter Soldier I think is like the best like tight standalone Captain America movie.
Yeah.
And then like Captain America the First Avenger they just nailed it.
You know what I like about
Civil War just makes me sad because our dads are fighting.
Yeah. No, but I love when Captain America, remember in the first one that Cap punches a submarine and then in the second one he like fights a plane.
Yeah, he does that sweet
I
flex.
love that shit.
Yeah, just holding a helicopter.
He punches a submarine in the first one and then like goes toe to toe with the tank. And I remember like, oh, it's not going to get better than this. And then he fights a plane, the sequel, and then basically he fights on half his team in the third one. So yeah.
Going back to Loki. So how did we all feel about that ending? Like where we sat? I mean, because I know a lot of people like it's not going to be Kang, and nobody did know how to set their expectations. So I mean,
I thought it was great.
I was just enthralled. Like from the moment that door opened and I saw it was him, I was just like, and I was just like sitting on the edge of my couch, just give it to me.
That's kind of how we were when we first saw him. We were like, "Oh my god, it's happening!"
They did it. They were like all these freaking nerds,
and that
like, it's not gonna be Kang.
It shouldn't work because
it shouldn't work.
But it's
for us, obviously, we know who Kang is. We're going to be like, oh my God, it's Kang. But then like someone like my wife would be like, I don't know who the fuck this is. But he's so goddamn charismatic. And he's literally just giving exposition for an entire episode of television.
I mean, that's that last episode.
Yeah.
I mean,
there was a little bit of scuffling between Sylvie and Loki. But like the episode was literally just exposition. And I was so in.
Yeah. It was like the episode before. Like that was like the third act. Big. Fight action
set piece with old Loki
versus Goliath and all of that. Classic Loki had his moment, good stuff, and then
I remember when we got to the end, I remember being like, "That's how they're gonna end it." And this was right before they announced there's gonna be a second season. But when it just ended, it was like such a cliffhanger because like WandaVision, even though it kind of had a cliffhanger-ish ending, it felt pretty conclusive.
Yeah, they wrapped it up.
Yeah.
Or the same with like Falcon Winter Soldier. It's like, it's conclusive. I mean, I know they're teasing shit with Sharon and US Agent and all that. But this one just felt like a fucking cliffhanger. I'm like, that's how they're going to end it.
Because they left so much of the TVA stuff unresolved. Like, you still don't know anything about Mobius's background. They like queued up this thing with Judge Renslayer, like being like a teacher and stuff. So there's clearly way more TVA stuff to do. And not to mention that it's a different timeline that Loki gets sent to because
the I don't think she sent him to a different timeline. I think she put him back in the TVA, but time changed around them.
Yeah.
Because He Who Remains told them, if you get rid of me, other versions of me are coming to take over.
It's the timeline where the other Kang instead of him.
I'm pretty sure that was the statue we saw at the end, Kang the Conqueror. He was in his gear.
right?
Minus the helmet, but that's Kang the Conqueror, and that's why Loki was freaking out. I found it funny that when Loki goes and he finds Mobius and he's talking to him, if you listen to what he's saying to Mobius, he's describing himself at the beginning of the series. There are many versions of this man who's incredibly dangerous, and all he wants is chaos. Literally to a T, the description of Loki in like the first episode.
Shit.
Whoa.
See, that's why I want to rewatch it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've rewatched it, no joke, earlier today.
All right.
Just for this, because
Well, I got the next 3 days off, so that might be part of the scheduling. But I remember when like seeing that Kang statue at the end, I got so excited because like it is his gear. And I remember like being like, it's like this.
Yep.
This is what he's wearing. It's so great.
Yep.
Great.
It was incredible.
Yeah.
I guarantee you that headpiece is going to come up over his neck the way that Iron Man's helmet comes up over his face. Like when we see him go, oh, you guys want to fight? Okay. Yeah. And then it'll come up and then, oh shit, like it's about to go down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I saw somebody posted a clip from the Avengers Earth Mightiest Heroes cartoons.
Mm-hmm. And those are great cartoons.
Oh, they are phenomenal.
It's a really good
If
series.
you haven't watched them, check them out.
Highly recommended.
Yeah. But he posted this fight scene that the Avengers have with Kang, and I'm like, this is going to be so good in live action. It's just going to be amazing.
Yeah.
But one thing I was going to say was that I feel like, Marvel after the first Avengers had kind of teased about like a redemption arc for Loki. And I feel like it delivered this time because I felt for Loki before, but I felt bad for him at the end because I honestly, and maybe this is just me and I was misreading it, but I thought that like that ending there when he's talking to her and and she's like, why are we different? Like, why are we not on the same page? And he's like, because you can't trust and I can't be trusted. And like it felt sincere. Like it felt sincere that this was Loki being like, I like no bullshit. I'm not trying to get in your head. Like this is legitimate. And and it was like that never ending kind of like punishment for Loki. It's like the boy who cries wolf. You pull the same trick too many times.
You can't believe him.
And I felt for him. Then and there because he caught a glimpse of like, I don't think this guy's bullshit and that like this is what's gonna.
He was scared. Like when he talks to Mobius at the end, he's scared. Like you can see it in his face. You can hear it in his voice. He's like panicked. And then when they don't recognize him, like his fear jumps to like 11.
Yeah, I love that when Mobius is like security.
Yeah, it's like, what department? You're an analyst, right? Like you don't normally talk to a guy like me. You're an analyst.
Yeah.
What department you in? What's your name? And he's like, what? And then turning around and seeing the statue. I can't fucking wait. I can't wait for Ant-Man Wasp. Like my excitement for that just went up through the roof.
Yeah.
Ant-Man's another movie I would say. I like the second one more than the first one. And I think the third one might be phenomenal. So yeah.
I think we'll see a little bit more Kang before Ant-Man. We have to. I feel like even if it's just like little like teases of him throughout the multiverse, like ripples.
Maybe they'll go back to what they did with the first phase where each post-credit scene kind of builds up.
I'd be into that.
We get Spider-Man and Doctor Strange before we get Ant-Man, don't we?
Yeah.
Yes.
So
we also get the Eternals before we get Ant-Man as well.
True. I could definitely see in the Multiverse of Madness Doctor Strange, it's starting to him just being like, what the hell is going on?
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I'm convinced that as a result of the timeline now splintering, that's what's going to get the Eternals off their asses in the movie. Because if they're supposed to be these 1,000-year, immortals, basically living on Earth, not doing anything, keeping to themselves, what would get them involved with the real world? Something like the multiverse breaking.
Right. Never mind half of the population gone across the galaxy. Because the time.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know.
It's possible, but
we have no idea when that's set either. So that's going to be a total surprise.
We have no idea what.
When any of the stuff that's coming out is set.
Yeah.
That's what makes all of this really interesting. Like every movie that comes out, when is it set after Endgame? When is it set after the snap, post snap, pre snap? Like,
right.
You know?
Yeah.
So it makes it fun. It's an extra, honestly, it's an extra thing that I enjoy watching in these movies. Aside from knowing Black Widow was taking place when it was, like, I'm looking forward to trying to figure out, when is Shang-Chi happening? When is Eternals taking place? Yeah.
And, I think throwing the multiple realities into chaos, because, with Hollywood, like the next stage has to be bigger than the previous one. And it's like, what's bigger than half of the, population of like the galaxy? Let's create multiple times. So,
yeah. And now what if could just be a different multiverse every episode?
I think that's exactly what it's probably going to be. That's what it feels like it's going to be. And they have to kind of structure it that way too. Cause like, I know they got all these actors to do voice work for the show.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Chadwick Boseman, I know, did a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
Feige got on record saying that he was in the booth recording a bunch of stuff all the time.
Well, so, you look at the IMDb page,
come up somewhere.
The IMDb page for that is pretty impressive. Sebastian Stan.
Yeah.
Haley Atwell.
Yeah.
It's gonna be great. And I'm really excited for Captain Carter.
Yeah, I think that's gonna be dope. I think they're all gonna be dope. They're all gonna be really cool.
Yeah.
And then the Captain Carter thing is going to play a little bit like Stars and Stripe with Steve in like some type of Iron Man suit, which is going to be awesome.
Yeah.
So
I'm excited for that too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or, and what kind of gets me excited too, I know it's not the same, but, it kind of gets me excited for like, because it's only a matter of time where we get like a Captain Britain, and like Excalibur.
I'm not crazy about him as Superman. But someone suggested Henry Cavill for Captain Britain, and I think that would be the most hilarious thing that Marvel could do, to like as another like slight passive aggressive fuck you to DC. Like, we're gonna take your Superman, we're gonna make him the captain of his own country, and pretty much make him like one of the most popular characters in the MCU now, just because we can.
Yeah, Marvel has that leverage now. They have and he would be a great Captain Britain. And what's cool about Excalibur is, because that deals with multiversal shit too.
I was gonna say, doesn't Captain Britain like, what's that, the Watchtower or something, where there's like, is that what that is? What it's all the doors to multiverse and shit.
Yeah. So some of the concepts are just not as fleshed out, so they came up with Otherworld. But it's exactly what you're saying. Yeah, he's like the king of that realm too, or the protector or whatever.
Yeah.
That's
all of this multiverse stuff kind of has been making me want to go back and read Exiles.
Yeah,
I don't know if it's great still, but I used to love it when I was younger, when it was coming out.
Listen, when I reread some of the stuff from the 90s, it's not good. It's still good. Like, I don't know how to describe it. It's like that could be, I feel like 90s X-Men books could be a Nexus event. Mm-hmm. It's like, it's good, but it's not at the same time.
Like, 90s
how can
X-Men,
these two things?
For one, it's probably just nostalgia, but it's all my favorite X-Men characters. The 80s and 90s X-Men is just like all the X-Men that I know and love shoved together. Right. The art is pretty much consistently great. And whatever, we got big hair Rogue. We got Gambit with his big jacket. We got, blue and yellow Wolverine and Cyclops. It's just all the good stuff.
Beast and Wolverine having the exact same hairstyle.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That just always killed me. I'm like, so Beast, smartest person on the team, huh? Looked at that hair and was like, yeah, I can pull that off. Really?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
That was all about Bishop's Jerry Curl mullet thing.
Soul Glow.
Soul Glow. So good.
Awesome.
Yeah. I think I'll always and forever be on a 90s X-Men kick. But
I love that's part of why I defend Apocalypse so much, because it's basically a 90s Apocalypse comic for 2 hours. But a good buddy of mine here is a big fan of Apocalypse, and his whole thing was like, come on, man, like, Apocalypse is like way more powerful than that, and like they didn't really even do stuff. And I'm like, all right, but let me ask you this. Cite me some comics. Like, what do you know what I mean? Like, what specific instances do you want to see here? Because for me, what I just watched on screen was like Apocalypse showing up in like X-Men, 40 something through like 52 and just being a dick or something. You know what I mean?
For me, I did not like that movie at all, but I also felt like Apocalypse, there isn't enough as a villain. He didn't have enough like oomph to it. Like I just didn't feel like he was a threat. And they got Oscar Isaac, who like could totally perform. Like I don't know. That movie in my head is just people glowing with orbs around them in the air.
Into the ground or killing people with sand didn't do anything.
No, that I barely remember stuff from that movie. I was just disappointed.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I get what I mean. It's like I get the pros and cons of Apocalypse, because I appreciate how over the top Apocalypse is. Yeah. And I think he's kind of one of those. He's kind of one of those characters like everybody likes because he looks cool, but can't tell you anything about him. Kind of like Venom. Like I know so many people who love Venom and like can't tell me anything about him. Oh, he looks cool. Like that's why.
Yeah, I mean, I always when I was younger would get excited when you'd see Apocalypse. I remember watching X-Men Evolution every week, and when they like teased Apocalypse was coming, I was like, oh shit. And I remember reading like Ultimate X-Men, and when they like one of the issues like ends with like a cliffhanger that like Apocalypse is coming. Terrible story arc if I remember. But I was like, oh shit, it's Apocalypse, and like Executioner song was like one of the first like crossovers that I like collected. And
I actually really liked how they handled Apocalypse in X-Men Evolution. Like I liked that he was like the big bad that forced Charles and Xavier, Professor X and Magneto to like join forces, because that was just like an evil, bigger than them. And I loved how old and like ancient he is. But I'm a sucker for ancient evil.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Also, didn't Apocalypse partially in the comics get his powers from Kang, whatever his name is? There's a Ramatut Apocalypse.
Yeah. There's a connection there, because he got his powers augmented, or he got his X gene activated, all that stuff by alien technology, right? But Ramatut is a time traveler from the future, comes to the past, so all of that seems alien anyway. So yeah, there is most likely that Ramatut thing, but Fox putting out their movies versus Marvel, so it's the same reason why it took them so long to introduce Skrulls into the MCU.
Mm-hmm. That's another thing, though, is like once the X-Men do come to the MCU, there's so many good villains.
Oh, yeah.
Dude, do you know how badly I would love to see like a live action Mr. Sinister?
You and me both, man. You and me both.
That would be
Mr. Sinister. I mean, just Magneto. Like, fucking Magneto could 100% be the next Avengers villain. Like,
oh, totally.
Like, with ease. And, like, to me, that's what he's not a robot. He's not an alien. He's a man. And he's, like,
a Holocaust survivor who has every reason to be pissed at the world.
He has all the bravado and the power and, like, just give me an Avengers versus Magneto, but not like Ultimatum. Fuck that.
No.
Right,
I don't want the Blob to eat the Wasp. I just want.
No.
But I would love to see Cap throwing his shield and like Magneto stopping it. Yeah.
That'd be killer. And with this multiverse that just opened up at the end of the episode, I've seen stuff online say that this is now, this is the reason that all the Netflix shows can now exist in continuity again. This is a reason why Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. can be in continuity. And this is a reason why the X-Men movies can now be considered in continuity, because Deadpool's coming. They already confirmed he's coming.
Mm-hmm.
And Deadpool's movies are firmly planted in those movies.
Yeah.
So my perfect scenario here is that they just keep Michael Fassbender as Magneto, because I don't think there's anyone better right now.
It's hard to think of anybody to be better because he is so great as Magneto.
Right.
But
if they give him white hair.
Marvel's casting is so good.
True. Marvel's casting is excellent. But think about it too. He's been Magneto for a while now. So even if it takes them, let's say 5-6 years to get an X-Men movie off the ground, right?
Yeah. I mean, honestly,
He's aged with the role.
I want like a fit old guy. We want like a Daniel Craig, like somebody who's getting older but still could fucking murder you.
Fair. Fair.
I don't necessarily want Daniel Craig to play Magneto. I don't really think.
Agreed.
I don't picture that, but like.
I get what you're saying, like old man strength.
Yeah.
Right.
But I think seeing Michael Fassbender with white hair looks like Magneto. Like it would be a good comic book looking.
And he could pull off like the early 1990s Magneto hair with the slight mullet in the back.
He totally fucking could. He totally could.
That would be so bomb. It would be so great.
I mean, I get Rob what you're saying about like a fresh slate, but I wouldn't be disappointed if they kept Fassbender because the dude can
recast all the other mutants. I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
Give me Fassbender's, mate. Just pluck him out of that timeline. You know what I'm saying? Like, just have him get pulled over, and then bring in other people.
Yeah,
that's fine too.
Yeah.
So
no, I mean,
I feel like since they already used what's his name, Aaron Taylor Johnson. It's the other guy.
Aaron Taylor Johnston.
He's the one who played Quicksilver in the MCU.
Evan Peters.
Evan Peters.
Yes.
And he wasn't actually Quicksilver.
Right.
I feel like that kind of probably means they're not gonna just recast Michael Fassbender or other people, because then it would just get like weird. But
right.
But we can dream. I'm sure. I have faith in Marvel's casting. I mean, they've nailed the casting. So.
Sure.
Oh yeah. I mean they've tackled things that I can't believe they've tackled. You know what I mean? Like just they have done some things I didn't think were going to be good. Were fantastic.
Sure.
At this point, I don't know why I even get nervous at this point.
Yeah.
They've earned the complete faith and trust in me.
And there's just so much Marvel stuff coming out. It's out of control between the Disney Plus shows and the movies. We're getting Shang-Chi and Spider-Man for the movies this year still.
And Eternals.
Holy shit.
And we're getting Hawkeye. We're getting the Hawkeye series.
We're getting Hawkeye and Miss Marvel before the end of this year. Too. And What If. It's a good time to be a comic fan.
Oh, it's a great
time. Disney's going to start rolling out the live action Star Wars stuff again soon, which I'm pretty excited about. So.
Oh, yeah. No,
I have no idea who's involved with any of the live action stuff for Star Wars. So
I mean, the Disney Plus stuff, I think Dave Filoni is kind of overseeing it all.
Okay. Aside from The Mandalorian. Yeah, that's right. Because the new Boba Fett show is coming out soon.
Yeah.
It's supposed to come out on Christmas.
And I'm really excited about Obi-Wan and the fact that Ewan McGregor is coming back for that. Because Ewan McGregor was my favorite part of the prequel trilogy.
Yeah, no, I think he's everybody's favorite part. He's excellent in those movies.
It's funny, like my Star Wars love and fandom, like when I'm like really into Star Wars, I'm like really into it. I'm like when The Mandalorian was airing again, I was like so fucking into Star Wars. But then like when it's out of sight, it's out of mind completely. Like I never think of Star Wars, but then it comes right back. Whereas like Marvel, I'm just like,
oh, it's all the time.
It's always there. It's always pumping through these veins.
Yeah. Yep. Make mine Marvel.
For sure.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm just again in awe of how well Loki has done as far as like its production and storytelling. Like the concepts that they've introduced and they've made work, concepts explained by Owen Wilson. And it works.
Yeah. It's I mean, they got to give us Mobius on a jet ski before it's all said and done.
Yeah, for sure. That has to happen.
I'll say this, it explains the way the show ended. It will explain why Loki's going to show up in Doctor Strange. So, yeah, because I think he was announced as being in that movie as well.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I'm just excited for all of it. And I think it was kind of fitting that Loki kind of played a hand in the start of phase 2 because, he's the reason why the Avengers got together.
That's true.
So
That's
it's kind of cool
true.
that he's kind of part of
full circle still.
Yeah. I mean, and that's been the great thing about the Disney Plus shows is that there's weight, there's consequences. It's not like a show where the stakes are really small and doesn't impact the movies. But I mean, these shows, they're rewriting the next phase.
Well, to your point, any of the Netflix shows that had come out, they were all very insular. right?
Yeah.
They were super localized, right? Closest that got to affecting anything was the big building and the Defenders.
Yeah.
Right. But even then, like, they were always on kind of the fringe. You're right. All these Disney Plus shows, huge consequences for every single one. You know, Falcon Winter Soldier got us a new Captain America. WandaVision, we finally got a Scarlet Witch. And we have that other Vision that's still out there.
Yeah.
That has access to all of its memories, but none of its emotional connection because it doesn't have the mind gem.
Right.
So, you know, this show starting the multiverse, ending with all that Kang exposition and, you know, the fantastic performance by Jonathan Majors. I can't wait. And what if seeming like it's not going to have anything, I wouldn't be surprised if there is something that does affect or will be affected in the future. So at the very least, if the Watcher shows up in live action form, nobody's going to be like, who the fuck is that guy?
Right.
Like, everybody will be like, oh, it's the guy from the show, the cartoon.
Yeah. Because at this point, I mean.
And they've already shown up in Guardians 2.
Yeah, that was great. That was a nice touch. Yeah, I mean, at this point, if you don't know what's going on, you know, it's like you wouldn't even dive in to begin with. If you hadn't seen any of the Marvels, so you wouldn't pick Loki to be the starting point.
No.
And if you did, you'd be hella lost.
Yes, I still tell people WandaVision, the order they were released in, but apparently on the Disney Plus, on the chronological order, Loki takes place before WandaVision and Falcon Winter Soldier, which makes sense with that thing that I just found out about the, you know, crossing the threshold being the moment that Wanda gets her powers. So
good.
Yeah, good stuff.
So happy.
It's a good time to be.
It really is, and that's why I almost kind of feel bad about like ever like complaining about anything Marvel wise, because it's like I didn't think we'd have one successful Avengers movie. We have 4.
Mm-hmm. And we're all eagerly awaiting for whatever the 5th one is, whenever.
Oh my God! I lay awake at night and I think about that lineup. Like, oh, it'll have like, you know, Captain Marvel and Doctor Strange and you know, maybe
Spider-Man.
Spider-Man. You got Kate Bishop. You know, maybe one of the Eternals will be an Avenger.
Maybe the mutants are there by that time, and Wolverine joins the team. And you know, like, I don't know. It's very exciting. It's very exciting.
Yeah. And then who knows? Would it be crazy if, like, in the Avengers movie, we get like the Natalie Portman Thor, like if she's an Avenger?
Oh, dude, that would be so dope. Like, I'm excited for Love and Thunder. Like, I'm really excited for that.
Can't wait.
I'm very excited for that.
So,
you know what got me really excited recently was when they did they released a trailer for, it was like Free Guy, and it was Deadpool and Korg.
Mm-hmm.
I got so excited. It was like the first you know, MCU interaction that Deadpool has had, and I thought the pairing was great. I mean, obviously not too random because Taika Waititi's in Free Guy, but it's like you have the most foul mouth character with like probably one of the most wholesome, like.
Yeah, that's fair. Korg like wears his heart on his sleeve and it's like super like honest, like, you know, no, Meek's dead. Stepped on him earlier.
Yeah.
Like, oh, he's alive.
Yeah, I was just carrying him around because I felt bad. Yeah, so I love when he was like, when he meets Deadpool, like, hey, Paul, sorry you did. It's great. That dry Kiwi humor.
Right.
Yeah.
It's good stuff.
Yeah, but Love and Thunder should be, it will be. Especially the photos I've seen where he's rocking the sky blue pants and the yellow boots like in the books.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's gonna be good.
It'll be good.
It'll be
really good. So
yeah. Final thoughts on Loki before we dive into what we've been reading and watching, and
I was just
that it's good.
It's great. I mean, I feel like everybody's watching it, which is good. It's great.
Yeah. And Tom Hiddleston, man, like I want to take a moment to salute him because he
the best actor in the MCU. I'm going to say that right now.
Yeah.
He said he's done with
wants
Loki.
To play Loki forever too, which is great news.
I want him to play Loki forever, so I'm okay with that. That's great.
Yeah.
There's nobody else I'd rather see.
No, I mean he just nailed that part.
Mm-hmm.
Stuck the landing. And I remember being super excited when he was announced, because I think I may have mentioned this last time, but he was on that show with Kenneth Branagh, Wallander.
Right.
And yeah, Kenneth Branagh, when he got the Thor bit, he's like, you should audition. And he auditioned for Thor and Loki.
Right.
And
yeah, I mean, he's great. So
yeah, gotta love those origin stories.
I can't wait to rewatch this from beginning to end, like I did with Falcon Winter Soldier. And now I'm gonna go back and do that WandaVision too. Like,
yeah.
So
that was one thing I was thinking of when it would end. Like, I gotta wait another fucking week because I can't wait like when I could just like binge these shows. But I think it was good that I had to wait a week because it allowed me to like process more details than a binge does.
It a bit more for sure. Yeah. But again, what I was saying last time is these are shot with the intention of being all one thing.
Yeah.
So when you're watching them in chunks, they play a lot better. Like those last 3 episodes of Falcon and Winter Soldier got much better when I watched them in that chunk than when I was watching them piece by piece. So
I feel like that show specifically feels more like a movie, whereas WandaVision had like very clear starts and stops to each episode.
Yeah.
Fair. Yeah. Agreed.
Which was fitting given how it was like a love letter to
it
television.
Was literally structured that way, but
But yeah, no, I get what you're saying though. And that's what I love about the shows too. They're just so different. Like, you know, like the shows are not like each other at all. Like when we had Falcon Winter Soldier after WandaVision, it was a nice change of pace. Like it wasn't magic. It was like it's real world action science, based. You know? Yeah. Like anybody who has powers, it came from science and not you know, anything else. And then
you know, show. Loki just
when they showed about like the fucking Infinity Stones, like, oh yeah, the paperweights, it's like you guys just built like a decade of movies around these fucking things, and now you're just telling me to like here they're useless.
It's very good high concept that they got. That first episode was really strong too. In terms of setting the tone.
That first episode, hook, line, and sinker. Because I remember thinking like, you know, because they can't undo what they did in Infinity War. No, that's such a huge moment. And then so I love how they you know, like because he's an evolved Loki, but different than the evolved Loki that we had.
Ragnarok. Yeah, for sure.
Probably even say more evolved than the Ragnarok.
I would say further, but it's interesting that when the show ended and they stamped it and said, you know, coming soon, Loki season 2, it said Loki Laufeyson. So you know, thinking about that a lot, the one that you're referencing from Endgame, like that version of Loki, before he died, he took Odin's name. Like, remember, like he has that whole big moment where he's talking to Thanos, you know, and he's giving
and he looks at Thor
things, and then he says Odin's son. Like he finally took his father's legacy, and then he dies. So I just think it's interesting that this Loki, even in, I have to go back and watch the credits for the other episodes, but I'm pretty sure that they just kept referring to this Loki as Laufeyson. And that's the one that, you know, basically comes to Earth in Avengers and tries fucking shit up. So I just think, you know, he has had more growth than, you know, the Odin son Loki for sure. But has he really embraced who he is yet? I don't know.
Season 2?
I don't know. Yeah, season 2.
So good. So good. So yeah, if you're not checking it out, check it out. But yeah, what else? What have you guys been reading, watching, listening to in the meantime since last episode?
I mean, I recommended that True Crime and Cocktails podcast.
I was about to say, yeah. What's that about?
It's
apart from murders and cocktails.
2 hosts who talk about true crime while they're drinking during the podcast. So it's very fun to listen to. And it, you know, it always starts off with a little bit of a catch up at the beginning, and then they go into what they're drinking. It's always like different drinks that they're mixing. Like, so I'm always like, okay, I'll try that. I should try that. And it's co-hosted. One of the hosts played Dina on Superstore. Superstore. And it's a really fucking good podcast. It's a really, really good listen. The other host is her cousin, who is an incredible researcher. So like some of the stuff that she's pulling up for some of these cases is fascinating. And yeah, it's a good listen. And ironically enough, in terms of watching anything aside from Black Widow, I recently rewatched Beverly Hills Cop 1 and Beverly Hills Cop 2. Holy shit, those movies are so good.
Oh,
so good.
Yeah, I mean,
I watched Beverly Hills Cops 1 like 3 months ago, and
like I hadn't watched it in at least 15, 20 years. And I was laughing way more than I did when I was younger.
Oh yeah, I mean, those are one of the pillars of the Eddie Murphy, catalog. I mean, it's like you. I feel like you can't talk about Eddie Murphy without Coming to America.
For sure. Yeah. But just Axel Foley himself as a character is so good. Like he's such a three-dimensional character. You can see the way he thinks as a cop, especially in part 2. And it was very surprising because, you know these movies, you've seen them, you like them, but then to like go back and sit down and watch them, you're like, wow, this is way better than I ever gave it credit. So
I always loved the theme too.
Yeah, the theme it used to be my ringtone for, I want to say about 2 years of my life. It was that ringtone. So, yeah.
Yeah. Good stuff. Anything else comic wise or movie wise or whatever? Wrestling? I always blank at this part of the show. It's like, I remember I was watching this, and then it comes and I'm like, flatline.
I've been reading, I just started trying to catch up on the past, the Hickman era of X-Men.
Dude.
So I'm reading X-Men. I think it's just X-Men Not Uncanny. Just the Hickman written one with Lionel Yu art, and the Marauders.
Marauders is awesome.
Marauders is fun.
I read like the first issue of X-Force and I was like, I don't need this. And then I've stuck with those two. So I'm like 6 issues into both. I'm kind of just hopping back and forth between the two.
Nice.
And yeah, it's super weird and Jonathan Hickman-y, but I'm definitely digging it. The Marauders is great. I love Kitty Pryde, and seeing her as a pirate is a great time.
Yeah. It's brilliant how they incorporate like the Hellfire Club.
Yeah, they're
the
board of directors for a company, and it's like all this silly stuff.
Very smartly done, all this stuff. Like, I don't know if you read Hickman's Avengers, but it was kind of like the same thing. Like he had a lot of moving pieces, and then you have to like kind of take a wide overview and like, oh, that's why this is happening, and that's why this is happening.
I will say that in Hickman's, the run that he's writing himself, there's more humor in it than most Hickman stuff I've noticed. Like, there's just like the banter between like Jean and Emma Frost is great.
Sweet.
Where they're both just like, I forget one line. Something about like Emma asked Jean if she could like borrow something, and Jean's like, "Oh, you would know a lot about that." And something that like grabbed onto like Cyclops' arm and kept walking or something, and then
that's hilarious.
I am really happy that they kept Emma Frost as part of like that dynamic with Cyclops, because in rereading the X-Men books, I actually think I like Scott and Emma more than Scott and Jean. I know it's like super sacrilegious.
Scott and Emma is a full-on 3-dimensional relationship.
Yeah.
Versus Scott and Jean, it's like your high school imagination of what a relationship is.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I like even in reading now, because like what I'm currently reading Messiah Complex, and reading kind of the issues that were leading up to that, like New X-Men, and but it's I love how like Emma Frost is just challenges Scott in ways that I don't think Jean ever did.
No, not at all.
Well, I also feel like Jean was always dead, or Scott was banging her clone, or
oh god.
In fairness to Jean, yes, yeah, good point, Rob.
And I just feel like once they killed her again, and they started like the full on Emma thing. Or well, I guess she was alive when the first Emma relationship started, right? did Grant Morrison kind of really? Yeah, he was the one who like really leaned into that.
Right.
Yeah.
She was alive then, and then it culminated with her dying at the end of his run, basically.
But yeah, no, I agree. I feel like Jean was just like, yeah, they were together, so they had to be together. But then Emma was like that interesting foil and everything.
Right.
Yeah. And it was really interesting too, because I was coming off of the heels of Apocalypse the 12, right, where Cyclops and Apocalypse were one, and she was kind of offering him
like therapy.
Yeah. And it was like emotional.
Therapy. Yeah.
But yeah, I'm digging what I'm reading so far. I still have, I don't know, 15, 16 issues of each before I'm caught up to wherever X-Men is now, I think. So
it's crazy what they're doing in X-Men. Like the what just went down in the Hellfire Club is like, wow, you guys are just.
Yeah, I'm excited. I saw a bunch
I'll be excited to talk to you guys about it when you get there.
I saw a bunch of the promo stuff for like the Hellfire Club gala with everybody in their sweet outfits, and I'm like, I'm into this. So I want to see what leads up to this.
Yeah.
I need to get back to those. I got off on a Captain America tangent, but
yeah, actually, so did I. I started reading Coates.
Okay. Yeah.
Because actually I started reading it last week because we were talking about how good the Brubaker stuff is. It's like, I got to give that Coates a shot. So far, I like it. I think it's really cool that he brought Selene in as one of the villains for that.
I read the first issue of that run, and then I fell off. Not because I didn't like it, but I don't know. Whenever there's like a new run of something, I always like read it, and then I get busy and I forget for a year and a half to keep reading.
Right. Well, it makes it easier because then you can go back and just read the whole thing.
Exactly. That's
win. That's
and
win.
Yeah. Good stuff. But yeah, that's I'm trying to think of I think just the Messiah Complex. And I remember really liking it when that came out. Because this is kind of when the tide turns for mutants, because it was just kind of getting
beat down.
Well, you know what too? I mean, that was, I feel like for the Marvel at that time, and it was a rough time for those characters because it was just like nobody was catching a break.
No. But that's we when I texted you earlier, that's why I was saying the Extinction Team is my that's my squad lineup.
That's a good lineup.
That was Cyclops basically saying, you know what? I'm tired of us being picked on. I'm going to overpower this team so everybody else is intimidated, and it worked.
Yeah,
and at least for a little while. But that squad is unstoppable to me.
Yeah.
So
no, it's good. I'm excited to get to that one. To that point, because I haven't read this stuff since it came out, like 2007, I think.
Yeah.
But I'm just excited to revisit all that. I feel like I have a better understanding for it now because when I was reading comics, I couldn't afford to read everything. Right, so there were some things that were like, thanks to Marvel Unlimited.
There you go.
So I'm like, oh, okay, now can I get more of what's going on and who's who and what's what. But yeah, that's what I got. That's what I got. As always, thank you guys for making the time to come and chat. Angela had to step out; she wasn't feeling too well. But yeah, I will catch you guys next week. In the meantime, if you're listening, give us some stars on iTunes, drop us some reviews, help us out with our algorithm. We appreciate you listening, and as always, have fun exploring the multiverse.